Hello guys, Crispy here, welcome back to another video. In this one, my friends, I'm gonna be testing Horizon Zero Dawn Remastered. Yes, I also don't know why that game needed a remastered, but here we are. On the RTX 4090, that's a big boy. This one is the Asus ROG Strix version of the card. Super heavy, but very beautiful GPU and really big one. The AMD Radeon RX 7900 XTX, the best graphics card from AMD. And this one is the XFX Merc 310 version of the card. And the RTX 4080 Super. This one is the Founders Edition model of the card. So basically we're testing 3 monster GPUs in this video. Let's get to it, shall we? Starting with the RTX 4090, it's installed here with the latest NVIDIA drivers, and I'm not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs right here in Tech Power-Ups. GPU Z resizable bar is also enabled, and it will be for all of the GPUs in this video. And over on the left, I'm pairing it with a Ryzen 9 7950X 3D CPU with half of its cores disabled. The only ones that are enabled are the 3D V-Cache cores. This makes it pretty much the same CPU as a Ryzen 7 7800X 3D, which is the best CPU for gaming at the moment. And over on the memory tab, we're using 32GB of DDR5 6000 mega transfers per second RAM in dual channel CL30. Okay, let's go over the settings first. I am starting at 4K resolution using SMAA on the anti-aliasing here. You could utilize DLAA, for example, but I saw a 5% decrease in performance from SMAA to DLAA. And on the graphics settings, I'm using everything maxed out aside from motion blur and vignette. And here we have it, guys. Let's start counting our FPS. Everything seems to be buttery smooth, super beautiful here at the 4K resolution as well. Damn, this is nice. Of course, Horizon Zero Dawn not remastered, you know, the default version is going to run a lot better than this, but this does look a little bit better as well than the classic version or original version, whatever you want to call it. It's also really smooth in terms of the frame times, no complaints there. 1% lows are at 69 at the moment, interesting, but that's because the frame time is not like a flat line, you know, it has little micro stuttering issues here and there, but they're not noticeable whatsoever. I at least can't really see anything wrong with it, with the smoothness, you know. Also, it seems like it is way more vibrant. Oh, the lens flares always get me in this game. It's way more vibrant than Horizon Zero Dawn was. The greens pop more, and I think there are more greens actually in this one. This is the exact same save game that I used to utilize with the original version of the game. Did it really need a remaster? I really don't think so. Okay, also in terms of the reds, these used to be very punchy red, okay, and here they're not really as punchy for some reason. So we got more greenery, but these flowers here, they used to be more red. Also, oh, this guy is not sitting on top of air at the moment. There's an actual rock there. That's something that they never fixed for some reason. This guy was always sitting in air. Okay, really smooth experience. To be expected, of course. This is an RTX 4090, so it should have no problems running any game that you throw at it. So, of course, it's just plays through everything absolutely fine. I'm curious to see how much of a performance increase there will be coming from like a 4080 Super to a 4090 in this game, or the XTX, how that compares with either of those GPUs. And that's what we're gonna see in this video, of course. So now, fighting these guys, or letting them fight me, I guess, with some smoke effects and so... Oh boy, that was quick. It drops our FPS slightly into the 80s, but yeah, overall, really solid experience. No need for like upscalers and frame generations and so on. But if you want that, let's enable frame generation here. And this is the good thing about the remaster. Obviously, they could have just implemented the frame generation into the original title, but hey... Well, at least in the remastered, you do have access to this technology, and it seems like it's FSR 3.1 as well, so you can utilize it with other GPUs that aren't RTX 40 series. That's nice to see, and I think this time, since we're using frame generation, I'm just going to use DLAA with it as well, because it makes things a little bit well, I won't say better looking because it's actually slightly softer than SMAA, but less aliased for sure, okay? Anyway, and here with frame generation on top of DLAA and native resolution, we're getting 130 plus frames per second. Really solid stuff. It also removed the thicker frame time graph that we were seeing previously, you know, like now it's much closer to a flat line than it was before at native resolution. In terms of input lag, yeah, there probably is a little bit higher input lag, but I can't really notice it here, and it won't really matter if you are above 100 frames per second. This is going to be a buttery smooth experience, guys, and if you have a high refresh rate 4K panel, I think this is the way to go with the RTX 4090. Just enable that frame generation, use DLAA as well. It's going to look really crispy, really sharp and nice, you know. I mean, it's still 4K native, of course, and in terms of like ghostings and so on, artifacts from the frame generation, I'm not really seeing it, honestly, guys. Like, it's very hard to notice them in today's games, especially if they are Sony titles. They do frame generation very well. The water splashing effects aren't really too good looking. Like, look at that. Maybe they should have remastered those as well. I'm not sure how they look in Horizon Forbidden West, but yeah, basically this is Horizon Zero Dawn with the graphics of Horizon Forbidden West. You know, like, even the requirements are the same as Horizon Forbidden West, so there's that, guys. Anyway, let's stop it right there, and I guess we could also do, like, DLSS quality, maybe? So I'm gonna turn off frame generation here and try DLSS quality at 4K. It seems like it gets us around the same FPS as the DLSS frame generation did on top of DLAA, but the thing is, now I can see that the water is a little bit softer, and the quality of the reflections on the water are definitely way lower quality than they were before. So yeah, it's a little bit more of a trade-off here if you want to utilize DLSS alone without any frame generation, you know. It does smooth your FPS, obviously, compared to native resolution with SMAA, like we saw. And in terms of the actual visual quality from DLSS, if I stand still right here, you can see, like, it is very good. If somebody put this thing in front of me with DLSS quality at 4K, I wouldn't be able to tell that this is running DLSS, okay? It just looks like native resolution. The only thing that I am noticing is that the water reflections are a little bit lower quality at the distance, and the water itself, basically, you know, compared to the native resolution, even with frame generation. Now, what if you have a 240 Hz monitor that's 4K resolution? Can we utilize quality DLSS plus frame generation and still have a really awesome looking image and get close to those FPS? Well, I thought they were going to be a little bit higher than this, guys. Interesting. So it's getting 140s, 150s at times. It didn't improve our FPS by that much compared to just enabling frame generation over native resolution or just enabling DLSS over native resolution as well. So we got a bump of around 20 frames per second, maybe 25 FPS from native res to DLSS quality, and then another 25 FPS or 20 FPS coming from DLSS quality to DLSS quality plus FG. This is what we're seeing right now, 150 frames per second. It doesn't get close to those 240 FPS, unfortunately, so if you have one of those super fast monitors, you won't be able to see all of those hertz or all of those FPS. But does that matter? I really don't think so. Now, I'm curious to compare it a little bit here with FSR3 frame generation. Let's check it out, because usually FSR3's frame generation increases your FPS a bit higher than the DLSS frame generation, but with the 4090, that's not the case here. Okay, so we're seeing slightly lower FPS with FSR3's frame generation. In terms of the quality of FG, I can't see a difference. Like, both of them are working very well. No artifacts. It's rendering the UI just fine from what I can tell right now. That's great. Whoa! What is that? Why are you there, buddy? Hello? Is this supposed to be like a wall or something? Probably, right? This is so weird. Buddy! I can actually shoot at them. They don't do anything to me. Okay. Alright guys, so I guess that's it for the tests here with the RTX 4090. I'm keeping it short here, I'm testing more GPUs in this video, but I mean, there's not much else to see, right? And now we've installed the RX 7900 XTX over here with the latest AMD drivers, not manually overclocking it as usual. You can see all of its specs here once again, and we're still pairing it with the same system, Ryzen 9 and 32 gigs of RAM. And I always run DDU to uninstall the previous drivers so I can clean install the new ones basically, okay? So no problems in that regard, if you're wondering. And let's go over the settings now. I am playing at 4K resolution using SMAA and the same max settings aside from vignette and motion blur and sharpness. Same settings as when we started with the RTX 4090. And well, here we go, guys. Frame time graph is still looking basically the same as the RTX 4090's frame time graph at the beginning, you know. Little micro stutters right there showing up that are not noticeable whatsoever while turning the camera around and stuff like that. And let's start counting our FPS. It's still above 60 frames per second in this area. It might drop, I don't know, when we get to like the forest area and fight those robots that throw smoke effects at us or ice effects, whatever that is, you know. I died instantly there, you know what I mean. Yeah, it might actually drop from 60 FPS since it is getting like high 60s here, or oh gosh, I gotta disable the double tap W or D or S to dodge. That's very annoying. I don't know why they put that by default on PC. Anyway, it's going to be a very stable and smooth experience for the most part. There's no need to utilize like FSR 3.1 quality if you want to achieve an even more stable experience, you know. If you want that, just enable frame generation. It will look better than FSR quality, you know. Of course, FG on top of native resolution. And we gotta check out some native AA as well from FSR. That should look pretty good in this one as well, kind of like DLAA, you know, but it's usually a little bit sharper than that. Alright, over here in this area, we're getting 70 frames per second still with these bushes and vegetation and so on. I bet, yeah, I just remembered, guys, I bet YouTube compression is going to completely wreck this game because it is very detailed, you know. The more vegetation and moving vegetation that you have in a game, the less detailed the video will end up being because of YouTube compression. So I'm so sorry, but I can't really do much about that, unfortunately, guys. It's probably going to be a pixelated mess on your end. But I can tell you, it is super detailed. It has tons and tons of different vegetation and animals, and everything moves with the wind. It's a very nice game in terms of visuals, indeed. Now we're here near these robots that I was telling you about, and well, it's dropping into like the mid 60s, I guess, 67 right there. Come on, buddy, shoot at me, both of you. No, I said shoot at me. There we go, there we go. We're seeing the smoke effects right now. Oh my god. This is very hard. How can I heal myself? I don't remember, actually. Oh boy, what am I doing? Alright, there we go. There we go, more smoke effects and so on. It doesn't seem to be dropping here. You know what? Let's just stand right here. We're getting 75 frames per second. And I want to see if the FSR native AA eats a lot of FPS here. Yes, it does. From 75 to 66 or 67, that's a big reduction in frames, guys. So don't use this, I guess, unless you want to utilize frame generation. And I'm going to utilize that. Here we go. FSR 3 over native AA should give us a very smooth and very nice looking image. And indeed it does. Once again, it looks super, super similar to the DLAA stuff. It might be ever so slightly softer than that, but I can't really tell much of a difference, honestly. We got no pixelation issues, which is awesome, actually, because with FSR 2 and FSR 3, there usually is a lot of pixelation issues. Over here, at least just with the AA part of FSR, it's not pixelated at all, like in Black Myth Wukong. In that game, it's super pixelated even if you use FSR native resolution, you know. But yeah, as you can see, since the average FPS previously on native resolution were pretty high already without frame generation, I mean, the icons could be a little bit smoother. I don't think those are frame generated, but it doesn't really need to be, honestly. Doesn't matter, it's just nitpicking at this point. But once again, since the baseline FPS that we were getting without FG were already very good, near 60 FPS basically, 60 to 70 most of the time, that means that enabling frame generation will improve your experience considerably, especially in a card like this, where the baseline was, again, around 60 frames per second. So now we turn this into a high refresh rate experience. It looks awesome. It feels amazing as well. I would use these settings, okay? There is no worries about dropping FPS from 60 anymore in fights and with big robots and so on. And not only that, we also get a little bit smoother frame time as well. I'm probably playing this in a very hard difficulty, and I shouldn't be because I'm not that great of a gamer, honestly. Oh boy. Okay, there we go. Smoke effects. No. Stop that. Okay, we're seeing the smoke effects here. Doesn't seem to have a hit with this GPU in terms of performance. I'm interested to see if the 4080 Super will have a hit to performance whenever that happens. But I'm not liking this weather now, actually, guys. This is way uglier. Come on. I want the sunshine back, please, and the good lens flares and so on. FPS are kind of the same still, but I want that. This is it, guys. This is exactly what I like to see. Beautiful sunshine and beautiful and vibrant colors. Let's stop it right there, I guess. Also, in terms of power consumption, this one is consuming more than the 4090 did in this particular title. So near 400 watts, sometimes surpassing it, actually. So it is definitely a bit more power hungry. But of course, the 4090 can be pushed further than that. And in some titles, it can utilize a little bit more power than this one. Anyway, let's try FSR 3.1 on quality here and see the look of it. Alright, so it's definitely not as good as DLSS in this game, although it's really close still to native resolution, guys. But I can see that the image quality gets slightly, very slightly noisier near the character when in movement. But it's really slight, once again. I think if somebody handed this to me, once again, with FSR 3.1 on quality and told me this was native 4K resolution, I would believe them, guys. Okay, and here you can see that it puts our FPS in the 80s, basically. It's a little bit better than what we saw previously at native resolution, of course. Like, what, 10, 15 FPS higher than what we saw. And that's also enough to put it above 60 FPS 100% of the time. And honestly, I think if you have a 32-inch 4K display or 27-inch, 28-inch, you know, a smaller display than what I'm using here, you can probably not even tell the difference in terms of the visuals, guys, compared to native resolution. Anyway, if you don't like the look of FSR, there's always the option of utilizing XeSS instead. There's the ultra quality XeSS here. Let's see how it does compared to the rest. And, okay. Ooh, no! No, when I jumped like this, I saw a lot of blurriness and some pixelation as well. I think XeSS is not as good here. I think it's just more pixelated. I think it's very subtle. It might be because Alloy is now farther away from the camera than she was before, because we're not inside of the city already, and now we are, and it's zoomed in, as you can see, and now I can't really see it anymore, guys. Alright, you know what? XeSS, FSR 3.1, and DLSS are very good upscaling technologies, especially in this title. All of them will work absolutely fine, especially at 4K resolution as well, so feel free to utilize whatever you want. Now, lastly, I want to check out FSR 3 quality plus frame generation, and if you're wondering, you can also enable XeSS quality plus frame generation. As you can see, it works because it's FSR 3.1, but let's go back to FSR 3 quality since it looked pretty much the same, and here, it gets close, guys, to what the RTX 4090 did with DLSS quality plus frame generation, right? That one was getting 150s at times. This one is also getting 150s at times, 140s. So you can have quite a similar experience if you use FSR, although FSR plus FG makes things just slightly softer than DLSS plus FG, okay? Once again, like DLSS is still a step above in terms of the upscaling quality, but FSR 3.1 closed the gap immensely. It really works well, and I wouldn't really have a problem playing like this, and I think if you have a 4K high refresh rate display like 144 Hz, 165 Hz, 240 Hz. This is what I choose to play there if you value the smoothness, of course. But yeah, I guess FSR quality gives you a little bit higher FPS than DLSS quality does. And that's why we're seeing kind of the same FPS as the 4090 with DLSS quality plus FG. Obviously, if I used FSR quality on the 4090, it would pull ahead of this one, plus FG as well. But why would you do that if DLSS is slightly better looking, right? Anyway, either way you choose, even native res, it's gonna be great on the XTX. Let's check out the 4080 Super. And lastly for today, we have the 4080 Super installed with the latest NVIDIA drivers, not manually overclocking it. You can see all of its specs here in Tech Power Ups GPU Z as usual. This one has 16GB of VRAM instead of 24 on the other ones. And over on the left, it's still the same test system with the same Ryzen 9 and 32GB of RAM. Let's go. And let's go over the settings now. We're back to 4K SMAA here, no upscalers, no frame generation, and the same maximum settings without Vignette or these two. Alright, come on. Oh gosh, Walloy, why do you do this to me? Please get unstuck from there. This is so interesting. This happened every time in the previous game, and now the remaster is exactly the same. Please! What the... Oh god. Oh, finally! What the heck? I was starting to lose hope, my friends. But anyway, isn't this exactly the same FPS as we saw with the 7900 XTX, guys? Like 72 right here, or 71? Maybe the other one was like at 69. I don't know. But it is basically the same experience, apparently, between the 4080 Super and the 7900 XTX from AMD. Now, of course, the 4080 Super has the advantage of only consuming, right now, 200 and something watts, which is absolutely insane. Also, GPU usage is not maxing out, probably because of the reflex being enabled. But that's really weird, because with the RTX 4090... it didn't have this issue. It was at 99% all of the time. This is like hovering around 95% or so. Did I enable the Reflex Plus Boost by mistake or something? No, I did not. It's set to on, not on plus boost. Usually it does this whenever on plus boost is enabled. But, what the heck? This is so weird. I think I'm just gonna disable that. Okay, now with that setting disabled, we get 100% GPU utilization. So I guess it's not apples to apples comparison anymore, unfortunately. But hey, Boost was just acting up here for no apparent good reason. Anyway, moving on. This is probably the best way to play if you have the 4080 Super, so let's stick with that. The frame time graph is also a little bit flatter than with Reflex enabled, by the way, but it still has... Gosh, I always press D twice in this area and fall in there. But yeah, it's still not completely flat, you know, like a little line. It still has some little microstutters issues here and there. But once again, and over here, by the way, it's getting a little bit thicker, that frame time. But it doesn't really matter, guys. It is a flawless experience anyways. It feels smooth to play the game like this, moving the camera around and so on. Anyway, it seems like without the reflex enabled, and with the GPU running at 100%, as it's supposed to run... got stuck there. Oh boy, I get stuck with a lot of these NPCs. For some, no, Alloy, please. I pressed D twice. But yeah, 100% GPU utilization, as I was saying. The 7900 XTX and the 4090 were also at 99 or 100%, so this is a bit fairer of a comparison, I guess, even though with this one we don't have reflex enabled. Don't blame me. I don't know why that happened. Okay, but as you can see, it doesn't really drop from 60 frames per second. In terms of the experience itself, it's super similar to the XTX. Over here in this area, we might see it drop with those snow effects or whatever. Hello? Shoot at me, buddy, please. Hello? Come on. Come on. I need to go to the other side. Whoa. Why are they fighting someone else? Previously, when I got here, there was nobody. They would just fight me, but now they're fighting somebody. I can see them, actually. There's one there. Okay, so now it's starting to drop a little. Oh, boy. Oh, boy. Okay, I'm fine. I'm fine. I just want to see your smoke effects. Guys, stop. Stop. There we go. Smoke effects. Smoke effects on the other side as well. Yeah, it seems like with the 4080 Super, instead of getting like 70s, mid-70s at times, it does drop a little bit inside of these smoke effects into the 60s. But again, it is not dropping from 60 FPS at all, even with all of these guys jumping in front of us and causing a bit of mayhem here. It's fine. Now let's go ahead and try it with DLAA plus frame generation from DLSS here. And this... Wait, oh, there we go. We're into the 100s. Okay, I was a little bit scared right there for a second. Now, this also enables the reflex, doesn't it? Yes, it does. As you can see, it's set to 1 right now. And the GPU utilization with reflex enabled is at 100% or 99%, as it should be. I really have no idea why at native resolution it was dropping to 92% there. Very weird stuff, but it's not happening anymore here. Getting 100 frames per second, slightly lower than the XTX, I guess, with FSR frame generation and native resolution, and FSR native AA at the same time. I think that one got, what, like 108 frames per second or something? This one is getting around 100 at the moment, but both of them will deliver a really smooth, very, very solid experience at 4K with frame generation. And again, if you were worried about dropping from 60 FPS, since it does dip down close to 60 FPS in big fights and so on, this won't happen anymore. Okay, with the frame generation, everything will be awesome and buttery smooth. VRAM is enough, as we saw with the other GPUs with higher amounts of VRAM. They didn't really go over 14 gigabytes of allocation, I think. I might not have paid attention whenever the game was set to these particular settings with the RTX 4090, so I'm not sure if it did go over 16 gigabytes, but I doubt it, right? And it's not really stuttery or anything, so I doubt it is running out of VRAM with this one. I mean, it's allocating 13 gigs and using 11.5, so no problems right here. Very stable, very smooth. Now let's disable that frame generation and enable DLSS on quality. It seems like we get slightly lower FPS than what we saw with FG. Okay, this is very weird, guys. Reflex is now enabled, DLSS on quality as well. No frame generation, and now the GPU is at 100%, so not dropping to 92, 95% a lot of times like we saw it happen previously. I really have no idea what went wrong with native res and reflex. Let's try to disable this, set this again at SMAA, and see that GPU utilization. Now it's fine. This is so weird. But it's also getting exactly the same FPS as without the reflex enabled, so slightly higher than what the XTX got, I think. Let me just showcase that, okay? Reflex is enabled here. We're getting 75 frames per second. And now, under the exact same circumstances, turning off the reflex, 76 frames per second, so 1 FPS difference there. And a slightly flatter frame time graph once again without the reflex setting enabled. But again, like this gives it a little bit lower input lag, so it can be good. Anyway, that was just to see that reflex doesn't really matter too much, okay? And you can still compare this to what the XTX did. The LSS quality... And let's start counting our FPS. We're getting 90s, so slightly like 5 FPS lower, I guess, or 5 to 10 FPS lower than frame generation on top of native resolution, or DLAA actually, in the case of the 4080 Super here. And this has the advantage of having basically no input lag, and actually zero input lag added by the frame generation. So your mouse movements will be and will happen slightly quicker, not a game changer really, you know. I'd be completely fine still with frame generation enabled here at 4K resolution and 100 FPS on average. It looks basically the same as native resolution. Like, it's kind of incredible how well DLSS works in these recent titles from Sony. Aside from God of War, in God of War, especially in the water, everything but native resolution looked pretty bad, you know, super shimmery and stuff. But here, yeah, it's not using the same water as in God of War, so everything is okay in that regard. Oh, and now we can actually check out the DLSS enabled versus disabled looking at the water, yes? Let's do that. Let's go to native resolution with SMAA now. I guess the reflections are slightly higher quality at native res, but for some reason, they become black in some areas. I don't like that. I'd rather play with DLSS quality, because look at the reflection there. It's not black. Of course, that one is a little bit more soft, but I mean, it looks better overall, I guess, because it's not black there. Anyway, guys, let's go with DLSS quality again, and now let's enable frame generation on top of that and see how it does. I'm expecting, yes, a 120 FPS experience or so on average. It's a little bit lower than that, actually. Like, the DLSS frame generation is not doubling our FPS, unfortunately. It usually doesn't do that, so I wasn't really expecting it, but yeah, kind of weird that the difference in performance isn't huge, right? But that's exactly what we've seen with Horizon Forbidden West as well, so not surprising. There's no problems with worrying about FPS drops and so on. Now with frame generation on top of DLSS, it's always going to feel absolutely buttery smooth. All right, we're seeing a lot of stuff happening here. Smoke effects and so on. Seems like with frame generation, the smoke effects don't really impact our FPS too much, and I'm dead. Again, this is hard, okay? Don't judge. But well, we're back here. Let's go around the city area once again. Check out the FPS there, and I guess that's about it for this video. It's not like a direct comparison between these three GPUs. I just thought I would test them out here in the same video. You know, you can jump around to compare different or similar graphic settings between all of them in a single video. I usually make them separate, you know, but I think this way I can benchmark and test more GPUs in the same game a little bit faster, you know, instead of publishing like 3 or 4 videos per day like it happened already this year and last year, basically every year that would happen. This is a bit more concise, I guess. I'm just trying something new here with grouping the GPUs together, not necessarily, again, side-by-side comparisons and one-to-one stuff, but you can still compare things, of course, and the experiences are different between the cards, not that different to where it matters, but as we saw, like 4080 Super basically got a little bit higher FPS at native resolution than the XTX. These are very similar cards when it comes to performance, usually, by the way. The XTX got higher performance with frame generation enabled and without FSR, and also with FSR quality plus FG it was getting 150 FPS, while this one with DLSS quality plus FG is getting 113 FPS. So quite a lot faster experience with the Radeon card, but obviously FSR is also a little bit inferior to the DLSS and so on. We talked about all of that stuff, right? So I'll leave you with that, guys. Thanks very much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you keep enjoying this style of video that I'm doing lately here in the channel. Let me know what you think about it as well. I think the comments have been positive about it, so I look forward to continue with this style of benchmarking. Thanks again. As always, love you all. Bye-bye.